Hook, you ever hear a story that makes your blood boil? Let me tell you what happened while I was away on a work assignment. My grandpa, the man who raised me, who taught me everything about loyalty, kindness, and hard work, almost got thrown out of his own home. Why? Because of a homeowners association with too much power and no heart. But here's the kicker: the very cops they called to enforce it, well, let's just say they don't exactly take orders from the HOA. They take orders from me. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why trying to evict my grandpa was the biggest mistake they ever made. When I was younger, my grandpa was my rock. My parents were never around much. They worked odd jobs, drifted in and out of my life. But grandpa was the one constant. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to shave, how to keep my word even when it wasn't easy. By the time I grew up, got my career in law enforcement, and eventually worked my way up to a commanding position, I swore I'd always look out for him the way he looked out for me. But life has a way of testing those promises. I was away for several weeks on a joint assignment, coordinating a case across counties. Grandpa lives in a modest little house, not fancy, but neat as a pin. He's proud of that place, and I know he pays his dues on time. But when I came back, I found him sitting on the porch, staring at a crumpled piece of paper in his hands. His shoulders were slumped in a way I'd never seen before. It was an eviction notice. The HOA claimed he violated some landscaping rule. His grass was 2 inches too long. After a rainy spell, they fined him, then stacked on administrative fees. Grandpa, who's stubborn and old school, refused to pay what he called their nonsense money grab. And instead of working with him, they moved straight to eviction threats. I'll be honest. My chest burned with anger. This wasn't just about grass. This was about power, control, and people thinking they could bully someone who looked vulnerable. Grandpa didn't even want to tell me because, in his words, "You've got bigger battles to fight, son." But this was my battle. The HOA scheduled an inspection, where they planned to bring officers to remove him if he didn't comply. That's when the anger in me turned into something else. Determination. They thought they'd scare an old man who had no one to stand up for him. What they didn't realize is that his grandson commands the very department they were about to call. The day of the so-called inspection came fast. Grandpa sat in his chair with his arms crossed, refusing to be intimidated. I told him to just relax. I had it covered. Sure enough, a little HOA committee caravan showed up. 3 board members in press shirts and fake smiles, acting like they were walking into a crime scene. Behind them, 2 patrol cars rolled up, lights flashing. The HOA president smirked, clearly thinking they had the law on their side, but the second those officers stepped out, the atmosphere shifted. Because they weren't strangers to me. They were my people. My unit. Men and women who trusted me, who knew my character, and who would never be weaponized by a petty HOA power trip. "Morning, Chief," one of them said, nodding respectfully in my direction. The HOA president's smile dropped. "See, Chief," he stammered. That's when I stood up from the porch and walked forward. Calm, but every step I took made their confidence shrink. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," I said. "You don't call my officers to intimidate a veteran homeowner who's lived here longer than your board has existed. You don't slap fraudulent fees on someone and call it justice. And you sure as hell don't try to evict my grandfather." The HOA members exchanged nervous looks. One of them tried to speak, but the officers were already shaking their heads, arms crossed, unimpressed. From where I'm standing, I continued, "This looks a lot like harassment. And if I have to open an investigation into misuse of authority, you're going to find yourselves answering questions you don't want asked." They backed down faster than I expected. The president muttered something about clerical errors and miscommunication. But I wasn't letting them off easy. We drafted an agreement right there. All bogus fines wiped clean, Harassment ended, and Grandpa's rights as a homeowner reaffirmed. My officers stood as witnesses. When it was all over, Grandpa put a hand on my shoulder, eyes glassy. "Didn't know you'd come back with an army, son," he said softly. I smiled. "You raised me to fight for what's right. Consider this me keeping my promise." Final message: Sishish for your YouTube close. And that's why you never underestimate the quiet strength of family. Or the consequences of picking on the wrong person. The HOA thought they could strong-arm my grandfather because he was old and alone. They were wrong on both counts, because he's never alone. He has me. So if you've got someone in your life who stood by you when no one else did, stand by them. Protect them. Honor them. Because sometimes the battles we fight aren't the big ones out there in the world, but the ones right at our doorstep.